This is Future Talk.
Future Talk.
Future Talk with Omnia Saleh and Hani Balkis.
Yes, you're listening to Future Talk right here on Pulse 95. This is the one and only place where we bring you the latest in robotics, artificial intelligence, gadgets, and applications. All that you need to know about what's happening in the tech world, in the UAE and around the world is being brought to you right here on Pulse 95. We have an exciting day filled with tech news. So do you want to start with it, Hani?
Yes, let's get right into it because we're talking about Apple, my favorite company in the whole world, and Apple and how they're going to unveil the iPhone 12 during a virtual event this September. So we're talking about 6 days, September 15th.
We finally have a date for the iPhone 12 after so many rumors about it being delayed or not even released in time. But coming up on Future Talk, we're going to be talking about Apple's rivals, Samsung, because they're working on a transparent smartphone. Who would have thought smartphones could be transparent?
Now, see, we've been seeing a lot of patenting being done by Samsung and Apple. They're having a lot of ideas being thrown. And the first logical thing to do is when you know you have a good idea or a good invention, you go and patent it.
Yes, indeed. But coming up on Future Talk as well, we're going to be talking all about distance learning since news came out yesterday that right here in Sharjah, distance learning is going to be extended for 2 more weeks. So what are the challenges of online learning and what are some skills that students, parents, and teachers can adopt for them to be able to make distance learning a little bit of a better experience for everyone? We're going to be speaking to Head of International Projects and Learning at Qridi, which is a digital tool for teachers and students. Markus will be joining us in just a few moments to give us the latest of updates on how can we make distance learning a little bit better for everyone. If you have any questions for Markus, make sure you send them in at 4215 do Salat or slide into our DMs at Pulse 95 Radio.
Yes, if you have any suggestions or you feel like you know what's going to happen with the iPhone 12, text us in as well because we're going to be getting into it.
Daily digital news. Bits and bytes connect our world.
Yes, you won't find anyone else like me because I am the biggest Apple fan there is, and Apple is going to hold its biggest annual launch event on September 15th, where it may unveil the new Apple Watches, iPhones, and more. Now, I'm very excited to get into this, Omnia, because it's been long awaited. We have talked about a lot of leaks on the show about the iPhone and the Apple Watch and what might be coming to this new generation of iPhones. Now, Apple is expected to launch new products like updated versions of the Apple Watch and even the iPad Air, which will be held on a virtual event because obviously Corona. So it will be around September 15th, and Apple does actually typically announce new iPhones during September. And Omni and I actually talked about it, and we were thinking that maybe around October, November, they would launch the event.
Because of all the COVID-19 updates, we thought it would be a little bit delayed.
But again, we're talking about that maybe Apple may instead announce its anticipated iPhone 12 in October and September. It's not clear yet. We're kind of speculating what might happen.
Yes, indeed. Now, Apple typically unveils the new iPhone models during its September event, which everyone is usually excited about. Sadly, this year it's going to be happening virtually. But there's a lot of speculation that this month will still be the main announcement of the launch, the iPhone 12. Now, a lot of people have been very excited about the iPhone 12 simply because the software updates are very unique. So we talked about it before. We talked about the launch of the widgets, but Apple may be launching 2 new Apple Watch models as well. So one model will be succeeding the Apple Watch Series 5 and another one will be replacing the cheaper Series 3. Apple's iPhone 12, meanwhile, is expected to be the first smartphone with 5G connectivity. Now, finally, Apple is joining the 5G team after Android devices like Samsung, Huawei, and OnePlus they had launched their 5G iPhones back in 2019 and at the beginning of 2020. So Apple is a little late to the game, but nonetheless, it always catches up and brings their phones on a whole other pedestal.
Yes, and talking about phones, it's very important, not phones, because Apple will be unveiling 4 variants of the iPhone to succeed the iPhone 11 and 2 that will actually replace the iPhone 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max. Now, all 4 versions will feature OLED screens, which do offer deeper blacks and richer contrast, which is compared with the iPhone 11's LCD panel. Now, the iPhone sequels are expected to come in 2 sizes, Size number 1 will be 5.4 inches and 6.1 inches for the second one, while the iPhone 12 12 Pro is expected or rumored to come in 6.1 inch, and my favorite inches, 6.7. The bigger, the better for me. Ever since I switched to the Max and a bigger phone, I can't go back to smaller phones.
I don't see why people would ever like a smaller phone unless they want to, have it fit comfortably in their pocket. But if you plan to use your phone to watch shows, movies, or even just scroll on your favorite social media platforms, as you mentioned, Hani, the bigger, the better. But September 15 is definitely a day that a lot of people tend to mark in their calendar, and it's actually going to be the second major event that Apple leads virtually in the past recent months. The first one happened in late June. It was the Worldwide Developers Conference that was actually held digitally for the first time in 31 years.
Now, Omnia, let's talk money.
Okay.
Let's talk money because obviously a couple of days ago, Apple lost $180 billion, not million, $1 billion in market value on last Thursday, and it is the biggest loss for any company ever. So, do you think, now a lot of people are saying maybe it's going to launch in September, the iPhone 12, maybe in October. Do you think this announcement comes because they lost so much money on Thursday that they're going to release the iPhone 12 this month?
I don't think so, simply because Apple definitely did not support the rumors about the delay actually happening. So a lot of people were speculating that there will be a delay, but coming right out of Apple, and when we look at the website that is launching the event, they did mention that it's still going to be happening on the 15th of September at about 10 p.m. So,
but we're talking about how they lost so much money.
10 a.m. Sorry.
Yeah, how they lost so much money. $180 billion, the biggest loss.
The thing is, you can't fast speed production, so the phone should have already been produced.
So you think that they will launch it and announce it today because of how much money they lost? They want people to come back and buy the newer iPhones, go back and buy stocks. What do you think?
I think if they were to make them cheaper, then yes.
I honestly think this is going to be announced on September 15th, the new iPhone, because Apple took a big hit with this $180 billion loss. But who knows? 4215, let us know. Is Apple going to release it this month or in October? But Omni and I do say it is this month. And let us know, are you excited? Would you buy the iPhone 12? But let's jump to some other news, Omnia.
Yes, Android is also making headlines because Samsung is developing a transparent smartphone, apparently. Now, never in my life did I think about talking about, a transparent smartphone, but this patent was actually announced recently, and the design is quite unique. So it was published on the 27th of August, and it was filed back in January of this year. So now it's making its round, and this is because of the technology that is used to create such a phone. Now, as a basis for this, the company is actually using an OLED display. So such a display requires low power consumption, high brightness, and fast response time, which definitely sounds like the dream phone for many. No one wants to keep on charging their phones. But to create this transparent display panel, Samsung will definitely have to create a lot of content that will be adapted to that transparent display, because you can't have the apps or the home screen showing up in the exact same way if the display is different.
Now, Omnia, LG, the company, actually did patent something similar a while back, and Xiaomi did manage to release a see-through TV quite recently. So we do know this type of technology is already here, and we could see it make a transition to smartphones in the future. But the question is, are smartphones the future? Now, are transparent smartphones the future?
Yeah.
Now, Omnia, there is a number of questions that arise when it does come to this type of design. Now, the first thing that comes in mind is the cameras, because you need to play both front and rear cameras facing somewhere. How are you going to put them in a transparent phone?
True.
Now, if you do place them in the usual spot, the phone will be transparent, but you will see those camera sensors, so it won't exactly be completely transparent.
And speaking of cameras, we definitely saw Apple also struggling with a very similar issue with its design, because we were talking about it, how they wanted to hide the front camera pinholes. They didn't want the holes of the camera on the front to be as evident so that they can increase the display size of their screen. So in order to solve this problem with the Samsung transparent phone, they would have to create a transparent phone that is necessarily very transparent also in its camera.
Man, we said transparent a lot today.
Yeah, very invisible.
Word of the day, transparent, ladies and gentlemen.
Now, the display may be cool, but it may hinder what we see on the screen. So the content of the home screen may be a little washed out. It may be bright. It may not be necessarily properly illuminated. So
now, a lot of people are speculating, do we actually need these transparent phones? How durable are they? Because obviously, transparent phone, you would think it's like made out of what? Nothing.
Glass,
obviously. So if you drop them, what happens? And how? Talking about privacy, if a transparent phone, can anyone see what I'm doing behind the screen?
Ooh.
And also, a lot of people are saying, well, you know what? Let's put transparency on a pause right now. Let's kind of focus on the foldable or rollable phones that make more sense right now at this current moment. Let us know. 4215 would you like a transparent phone, a normal phone,
a foldable
foldable, or even a rollable phone? 4215 and if you can't message us for any reason possible, at Pulse95 Radio on Instagram.
Lots and lots of choices for smartphones in 2020. So let us know what is yours. But coming up on Future Talk, we're going to be talking all about the challenges of online learning, a struggle that many parents and students know too
Thankfully
well.
not. I don't struggle with that anymore.
This is Future Talk. Future Talk.
Future Talk with Omnia Al Saleh and Hani Balkis.
Distance learning in the age of COVID-19 has definitely been a very rocky road for many parents, students, and teachers. A new experience that a lot of us never thought we'd actually be getting into. And it felt like a far-fetched dream, but this pandemic has caused this process of online learning to be a little bit more accelerated. And even though it has definitely been a reality that was forced into the lives of many people, we are trying to adapt to it as best as possible. So right here in Sharjah, Sharjah Private Education Authority actually announced yesterday that online learning will be extended for 2 more weeks until they can assess the situation once again. And this is exactly why today we're going to be talking all about the challenges of online learning. What skills can students and parents adopt to make this journey a little bit easier on everyone? Joining us today is the head of international projects and learning at Qridi, Mr. Markus Packalén, who is actually joining us today to tell us a little bit about this digital tool that has been helping teachers and students facilitate online learning. Welcome to the show, Markus.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Great, happy to be here.
Now let's start and hit this head on. Now, what are the challenges of online learning?
Well, from my perspective, at least in the beginning, it was like a surprise for everybody, and it happened so fast. And most schools, they didn't have a existing culture of existing structures to facilitate learning online or remotely. So I think that's number one thing, that the teachers and the schools were supposed to build these structures in a week or in a day. And of course there's a lot of other things like lack of online materials or lack of digital tools, or maybe the students don't have devices for online learning and so on.
So do you think that parents have kind of a problem, it seems foreign to them, or the students, it seems foreign to them, to kind of get in touch with themselves when it comes to the online classes? Like, it's very hard for them to kind of
immerse themselves
in the class, to pay attention in class?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is a problem, and I've talked to, I'm a teacher myself, and I've talked to many of my colleagues here in Finland, and you hear these stories like that somebody's playing a computer game or video game while attending Zoom meeting or Teams meeting, and after 3 weeks, it turns out that there are some students who have actually done nothing at home during that time, and so there's a lot of difficulties, and many students are not that self-regulated.
Many distractions.
Many distractions, definitely.
Now, one interesting aspect that you actually mentioned is the lack of devices, which has definitely been an issue that parents and teachers and even students got it was brought to their attention once distance learning started, which is the fact of what we would call digital equality. So students that may not necessarily have had laptops or computers to tune into the classroom were at a little bit of a disadvantage when it comes to distance learning. And you as a teacher and also as a developer of the digital tool Qridi have definitely been working on making distance learning a little bit easier for everyone. So in your opinion, does online learning actually show a disparity in where some students are and where others are in terms of whether or not they are able to have this equipment, and what would be a solution for such an issue?
Yeah, definitely. Like there is this digital divide exists, and one of the reasons why Qridi was very popular tool in Finland during the remote learning time was that it was very easy to use on the student mobile phones, because most of the students, even though they don't have laptop or iPad, they have a mobile phone. So there's at least something they can do with that. But I think that the biggest divide is in the working skills of the students, that some are better facilitated, some are better capable of actually controlling themselves and taking initiative of their own learning than others. That other students are always dependent on adults and teachers and parents.
Absolutely. Can you tell us a little bit about Qridi and how this digital platform being used by teachers and students as well?
Yes, Qridi was originally built for assessment, to provide like not only testing but this sort of like a constant feedback for the students during their learning in school. And Qridi is not a learning material. It's more like a pedagogical tool. But during the remote learning time, it was used mainly like I could show you our numbers. The user numbers of Qridi actually they not tripled, but they were magnified by like 30-fold. So it was really a big thing, and most teachers would use Qridi to give tasks for the students. It's quite easy to build this task list, and the student can easily see at home that these are my tasks for today. Like I have these 5 tasks that I need to complete, and that's it. And each task card contains some information for that. Also, many students had this learning portfolio in which the students recorded, documented their learning, what they did during the day. Today I finished my math practice, and today I made this artwork, and so on. And also support this like a good daily rhythm of studying. Like we have these questionnaires that did you have enough pauses during the day? Did you have healthy meals? Did you wake up in time? Something like that.
So it was basically reminding them to also take care of themselves while taking care of their tasks.
Yeah, definitely.
We're going to be taking a short break, but once we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the skills that students should adopt whenever they are continuing their journey with distance learning.
So we're going to take a short break, but come right back right here only on Pulse 95.
This is Future Talk. Future Talk.
Future Talk with Omnia Saleh and Hani Balkis.
This episode is definitely one that is relevant to many people tuning into us right now. Parents, teachers, and students have been struggling with distance learning. And even though right here in the UAE, we're lucky that, in terms of laptops and digital equipment.
Even I struggle with distance learning, Omnia.
You struggled?
Yes. Do you know,
in what way?
Do you know why?
Your sister?
My sister. I have to wake up my sister for her online class.
Okay.
So her online class starts at 8 a.m. and
so she just rolls out of bed.
I have to wake her up. I'm like, wake up! You got university. She's like, what? I'm like, online class. And I open her laptop. I log her in and everything.
What a kind brother!
I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Well, I can tell you for a fact, online learning at the beginning, I'm currently doing my master's. So at the beginning, I didn't really appreciate it, but now the fact that I don't have to actually calculate commute time has definitely been a blessing. So I get to just go back home, open my laptop, and bam, I'm ready for class. But enough talking about our own personal experience with online learning, and let's move on to talk about the challenges of online learning and what are some of the skills that students, parents, and teachers can adopt to make learning succeed. And we have an expert on the show today, Head of International Projects and Learning at Qridi, Mr. Markus Packalén, is joining us today to tell us all about what are some of the skills that we can adopt to make distance learning a better experience for everyone. Thank you so much, Markus, for joining us today. It's been such a great honor to get to speak to you.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here talking with you guys.
The pleasure is all ours. Now, so during the break, we discovered something about you, Markus, that you speak Arabic, which is amazing. It took us by surprise.
Can you tell us what is your role in Arabic?
In Arabic.
In Arabic?
Yes.
Ooh, that's really difficult, I would say. أنا بتكلم عربي شوي.
شوي. You're a teacher as well, isn't that right, Markus?
أنا مدرس.
And so you would know online learning better than anyone of us, because at the same time you are on the other end of online learning.
Yeah, I would say so. If it's fine, I'll switch to English now.
Yeah, switch to English. Now, Markus,
all right.
Since you're a teacher, I want to ask you, have you faced any difficulties with online learning?
Yeah, definitely. I wasn't teaching during the remote learning time, but of course I have a lot of colleagues and I also have my own children and we have a lot of customers who we get a lot of information from and my experience was that it was quite a blast for the teachers. They really needed to adjust their thinking. And I think the students did really good work. I think that most of the students, at least here, they kind of adjusted pretty well and they're quite capable. They have the skills, digital skills already.
Absolutely.
To some extent.
But, since you are also the developer of the online platform Qridi that is basically associated with a lot of schools in Finland and right here in the UAE, we've been seeing a lot of parents more inclined to use apps online, to use different digital platforms to help make the experience easier for students to adjust to. So, in your opinion, even if a school does not necessarily adopt a digital platform, how can parents make the most out of all the apps that are available online to make the experience easier for their kids?
Yeah, I think that the question is a good one. I think that the parents often don't have access, like they don't have the knowledge that what apps would be the best suitable for which purpose, and it's honestly quite difficult to get that information. Of course, there's a lot of advertisement going on, but I would recommend reading some blogs and some watching some of the YouTube channels that offer really good like tech reviews and so on. But I think that the most important thing is that the parents would take care that the students are actually they have the basic skills on academic work digitally, like they know how to use cloud services and they know how to write files and PowerPoint shows and so on, like basic skills and how to use calendar and email and those things which are not necessarily very relevant for the young generation, but because they're using their own TikToks and WhatsApp.
True. It's necessary, though, for them to be able to keep up with the tasks that they get from their teachers.
Because there's a lot of...
It's necessary for studying.
Because a lot of statistics show, Omnia and Markus, that during the online distance period, the younger generation, I'm talking about, let's say, from kindergarten all the way to grade 4, they didn't know how to actually use a computer. They knew how to use touch screens, iPads, but they never knew how to use a computer. So I believe we have to kind of teach them how to use a computer first, because nowadays it's very rare to have someone very computer literate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. And that's one of the reasons why Qridi is built so that it works best with the mobile phones, because that's at least a device that most students have at hand.
I mean, I feel like a lot of the kids now are born knowing how to use a mobile phone. So it's great to have platforms, it's great to have a platform basically able to adapt to different gadgets all at the same time. Now, one of the advantages and the benefits of using the digital platform Qridi is self-evaluation. So teachers are able to trust students to let them know whether or not they understood a certain class, whether they are facing any difficulties, which brings up the element of trust. A lot of teachers nowadays, if we're going to pre-COVID-19 in a classroom, they never really trusted students to let them know if whether or not they're understanding a certain material in class. You know, they would basically wait on questions, which is now not necessarily a reality when students have their webcams turned on. So can you tell us a little bit about how self-evaluation matters in the process of distance learning?
Yeah, that is a good question. I think that if you teach and learn in a system which is very test-oriented, and there's a lot of emphasis is put, like in the studies, that the reason why you are studying is to prepare for the tests. Then the tests are really important, and you definitely should have some sort of way to test the children, the students. But during the remote learning, there's no 100% way of doing that, because you will never know if the student is receiving help from outside or
exactly what I want to dive into. Now, a lot of people have been getting great grades during this pandemic, Markus. Now,
myself included.
I see a lot of people they're getting A's and B's, and they were C and D students. Now, it raises the question, are these students actually learning, or is it making it easier for them to cheat?
Or even the question of, should we still be having exams and tests when you have siblings helping other siblings with the answers of a question, rather than the kid actually using his own skills to answer it?
Yeah, I think that is a right question, that is it actually necessary to test during the remote learning time? Because which is more important, testing or learning? I think that we should really focus on learning, and we should also switch the student focus also from testing to learning more, so that they wouldn't have like incentive to cheat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's why we want to encourage self-evaluation in Qridi.
Absolutely. And one of the skills that we just discussed is self-evaluation, but another is the importance of having a clear communication between teachers, students, and parents. And this is exactly what we will be diving into in just a few moments, and also the future of learning post-COVID-19. If you have any question for Markus Packalén, make sure you send them in at 4215. Do it this a lot.
Yes, and if you cannot, at Pulse 95 Radio on Instagram, we're also live on YouTube. You can see me winking at the camera every couple of seconds, letting you guys know that I see you. So, taking a short break, but when we come back, diving into more about distant learning.
This is Future Talk. Future Talk.
Future Talk with Amiral Saleh and Hani Balkis.
We're diving right into distance learning and talking about the future of online learning post-COVID-19. Now, we do have one of the best in the business with us.
Yes, indeed. Head of International Projects and Learning at Qridi, a digital tool for teachers and students to facilitate distance learning. We're speaking with Markus Packalén, who's been showering us with a lot of knowledge on what are some of the skills that we should adopt to make distance learning become a better journey for everyone. And this is a very timely interview, especially because just yesterday, Sharjah Private Education Authority actually announced that distance learning right here in Sharjah will be extended for 2 more weeks. Markus, it's been a great conversation with you, but we want to ask you a little bit about communication. You know, we always talk about the importance of communicating, whether it was with our loved ones, significant other, but especially when it comes to the environment of learning, and especially when students and teachers are not present face-to-face with one another, it can be a little difficult for a student to communicate their fears, to communicate their worries, their misunderstandings. So in your opinion, how can we use digital platforms to make communication become better for everyone, for parents, teachers, as well as students?
Yeah, I think as a Finnish representative here, I would say that the less is more in a communication, in a sense that that at least I was flooded by all kinds of digital communications during the time when remote learning time started, and especially I think that the teachers needed to sort of pour down so much of information to homes that it was almost overwhelming. So I think it's a skill to know how to like really wrap up your message to a single sentence and convey your message in a way.
I think every mother tuning in right now will definitely agree with you. The surge of emails, of emails that have been getting on their phones is unbelievable, especially if a mom has multiple kids. My lord, there's no other way of communicating tasks apparently except through emails.
Yeah. They should hire a secretary or something. When it comes to the between the teacher and the student, I think that's the most important relationship here. That whichever digital system they are using, there should be a way of teachers to give feedback and support for the students. That's number one thing from my opinion.
Now, talking about post-COVID-19, after COVID-19, now let's go back in time. Now, for example, you live in Finland, correct? Yes. So if you guys have a snow day, schools become canceled. But now, since we're so used to online learning, is school not going to be canceled anymore? Are we going to result in having an online class, for example, during a snow day?
Actually, during my time when I've been to school, there hasn't been a single day when the school has been cancelled.
Oh God!
Especially because of the snow.
I mean, right here in the UAE, we've also seen it. Whenever
rains too much.
If the rain is too heavy, if there is any natural situation where it's not safe for kids to physically go to school would be basically canceled for the day, and it would be the happiest day in the lives of many students.
So the question does come: is there no more cancellation?
No, actually, in Finland there is no cancellations. But I think that especially after this COVID time, we are more prepared to this kind of situation that we already have like established communication channels. We're using the digital tools. We already know how to make the learning and teaching happen remotely.
So we'll basically be more equipped to deal with any circumstances that arise. But just another quick question to add on to that. In your opinion, do you believe that having online learning become also a reality post-COVID-19 would help more children around the world be able to learn in schools? Because it does cut down on some of the costs. So let's say doing online learning means that parents may not have to pay for transportation. So do you believe that it will create more of an education equality in the future?
Yeah, I actually believe that. Like you could somehow compare it to what happened with the online grocery shopping, which took like a leap of 5 years, at least here. And I would say that the school also would have a chance to take this 5-year leap that using digital technologies and making the education more accessible to those who don't have access to it at the moment. I think that's really a good point here.
Markus Packalén, who is the head of international projects and learning at Qridi. Thank you so much for joining us today and shedding some light on the challenges as well as the skills that everyone should adopt to make distance learning a better experience for everyone.
It was a pleasure having you.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure being here.
Pleasure is all ours.
To everyone tuning into us right now, thank you so much for lending us your ears for the hour.
Yes, indeed. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, the show doesn't stop here because we have the halftime show. The only place to be at 3 in a bit. We got like 4 minutes until Amara Duri does come and give us everything we need to know about mental health, gut health, fitness, everything to better yourself.
Today is a very exciting episode on his show as well because he has in the studios of Pulse 95 a breathing expert. So he recently...
I love to breathe.
He recently immersed himself in an ice bath. But how was he able to get through it? This is what you're going to be finding out all about in just a few moments.
And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, we are live on YouTube, Pulse 95 Radio on YouTube, where it's a fun time in the Pulse 95 studios. So do go and see our pretty faces.
If you miss any of our previous shows, you can also catch us there at YouTube, Pulse 95 Radio, and you can find us on all of our podcast channels, Apple Podcast and SoundCloud, under the name Future Talk 95. We will see you once again.
Heart of Sharjah. This is